Hello everyone. I'm going to give a few more minutes for everybody else to join. When I say a few more minutes, I probably mean seconds. So let's wait until the 8:02 mark and then I'll go ahead and get started. Okay. I hope y'all have had a great night. I have some notes here. Make sure I stay on track. Okay, let's do about 30 more seconds and then I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I don't know if y'all saw my post. I was showing that the girls helped me pick out my pajama set for today. So I will not be wearing this tomorrow. I will have a different one on tomorrow. All right, 2 seconds. Okay, let's hop in. Okay, so for those of you who just happen to stumble across this broadcast and may not know much about me, my name is Dylesia. I go by Dr. Dylesia on all socials. So any platform that you find me on, that is my name. And that's because I have a doctorate in social work as well as a master's in social work, in addition to being a licensed clinical social worker. So all those fancy things just mean that I'm a therapist, and I've actually been working with this population, so with women who have mother-daughter trauma, for about 11 years in private practice. It's crazy to think that I've been doing this that long, but I have been doing this that long. Initially, my audience was mixed, so my clientele included people who, had mother-daughter trauma, and included children, it included men. And then as I became more aware of my own mother-daughter trauma and the impacts that it was having on my livelihood, and I started seeking therapy, and really unsuccessfully, and I'll unpack what that means. But when I started seeking therapy for resolving my mother-daughter trauma and trying to really figure out what to do with the relationship, that's when I discovered that so many mental health providers are ill-equipped to tackle this subject. And so I became what I needed, which seems to be the story of my life. But when I say that my attempts to seek therapy were unsuccessful, what I mean is that therapists would either glaze over the subject, they would say some of the same things that I found that people said out in the world. So if you are in this chat, in this session, and you're a woman who has mother trauma, then you've heard things like, but that's your mom, or you only get one mom. And those things, they leave you feeling shameful and almost questioning whether or not you should continue to tolerate the level of abuse that you're experiencing, even though, because this person is your mom, even though you wouldn't tolerate it from anyone else. So I heard that so many times over and over again. And, I realized I really wasn't getting help. So I would actually create activities on the side and kind of supplement what I was getting in therapy. Sometimes I would share them with my therapist, sometimes I wouldn't. So I ended up going on this complete healing journey, sort of by myself, in a sense, and really figuring out tips and strategies that I could use in order to help clients and help other women. So that's what brought me here. Hey, everybody, I see y'all saying hey in the chat. So what I want to do first is I want you to be able to self-qualify to make sure you're in the right place. So if you are here and this is a great fit for you to be here, then it's because you have experienced repeated mental, emotional, spiritual, and or physical abuse in your relationship with your mom. So it keeps happening over and over and over again, and you're realizing that it shows up in your friendships with other women. Maybe you find yourself incapable of building other connections with women. Maybe it is that you do and then they fail and you aren't quite sure why it's not working. Whatever the case may be, you are just struggling to show up in your relationships with other women. I do want you to know that if you have mother-daughter trauma, research actually shows that it shows up in other areas outside of your friendship. So in my dissertation study that I conducted, I discovered that it shows up in 6 areas for women. And I've named those 6 areas the 6 dimensions of thriving. So that is your bank, which is your career and finances, your besties, which are your friendships, which we're going to discuss today, your boos, which are your romantic relationships, your babies, which are your parenting ideologies or your practices. People don't always realize that you can have ideologies around parenting that impact how you will parent even if you don't have any children. So I found out in my study that, women, in the way that they see how they will interact with their children, is impacted by their mother-daughter trauma. Additionally, you have your body, which is your physical and mental health, how you take care of yourself, what you identify as being self-care, how much you prioritize and are motivated to do that, etc., etc. Also, you have belief. So your spirituality can also be impacted by your mother-daughter trauma, and how, whether you believe in a spiritual being, whether you feel like you were betrayed or, put in a bad situation because you were given the mom that you were given, all those things are impacted. So there are more areas than just your friendship, and I'm sure I will do seminars about those. However, tonight we're just going to focus on our friendships. So I want you to know the structure of this. We're looking at probably about 30 to 45 minutes. Thank you so much, Anna. We're looking at about 30 to 45 minutes. I want to make sure that this is, just a quick and dirty kind of thing. First of all, healing from trauma is extremely overwhelming. As you all know, a lot of times it's so overwhelming that people just decide, I'm not going to do it. And one of the motivations for me deciding to heal from my mother-daughter trauma was that I knew if I was feeling like, oh my God, this is too much, I don't know what to do, that there had to be thousands and probably billions of other women who felt the same. So I felt like, Dylesia, you got to figure these strategies out, because if not, there are going to be generations of people who are going to have no roadmap for what to do when they're in this scenario. And that's exactly why I did it. So going back to the structure, I want to make sure that I don't overwhelm you with too much information. So that's why we're only focusing on one topic tonight. This is a 3-night pajama party, which might sound extremely obsessive. The reason why it's not obsessive is because if I talked about it all in one night, y'all would be like, this is way too much information. And also, I want you to know that there's more information to share. So what I've compiled together for tonight is not all that there is to even talk about. So like I said, this is going to be 30 to 45 minutes. There are 3 nights, so make sure you come back tomorrow and Friday. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on how mother-daughter trauma triggers and manifests in our relationships with other women, so in our female friendships. Additionally, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the 5 types of friends that every woman who has mother-daughter trauma needs. And then on Friday, we're going to wrap it up with doing some tips and strategies on how you can build fulfilling relationships with other women, even if you have mother-daughter trauma. So I want to make sure that y'all ask your questions in the comment box. I'm kind of getting a little distracted by some of them, but I'm trying not to listen or look at them, because I'm trying to make sure I stay focused. But my assistant is in the chat, Bree, so she'll be making sure to filter out any questions and send them to me so that I can answer them either throughout the presentation or at the end. So make sure you drop your questions, comments, concerns. And then also, if you're watching this and you know people who can benefit from this, make sure that you share this with them. Once the recording is over, share it with them. Also share with them that we're having this again tomorrow, right? This is not just a one-day thing. It's 3 days. So by the 3rd day, I'm expecting this thing to be lit, okay? I want y'all to tell all your friends. If you hear me say something that you feel like is monumental, make sure that you tag me in whatever. If you tweet about it, if you make a post, whatever you do, make sure that you tag me. So my name is Dr. Dylesia, as I said, on all social media platforms. So to get us kicked off, I want to start with a prompt. I love doing that to kind of see who's in the room. And it's definitely more of a prompt than where you're from, because that's not really telling me anything. But I want you to drop a 1 in the chat if you have never had a fulfilling relationship with another woman. So a fulfilling friendship, you've never ever had it. You don't even know where to start. I want you to drop a 1 in the chat. Okay. I want you to drop a 2 if you have had a fulfilling friendship with another woman, but it ended and you aren't quite sure why it ended. Okay, and I want you to drop a 3 in the chat if you have had a fulfilling friendship with another woman, but it ended. You know exactly why it ended, but you also have no idea how to prevent a conflict like that from happening in the future. So you're aware of what happened, but you just don't know what to do to make it not happen again. Okay, so no matter what you put in the chat, we all are here to answer the same question, which is essentially, how do female friendships work when I have mother-daughter trauma? And I really want to provide some normalization around this, because they work a lot differently than friendships between women who have affirming and supportive mothers. And that's not talked about enough. It's almost as if you are entering a sport. You're trying to play a sport, and you have a disability and nobody is making any type of accommodations for that particular disability. That's how we can look at mother-daughter trauma in the friendship arena, or really in any arena. It can be in any of the arenas that I spoke about earlier. So your career, your finances, your friendships, your mental health, your spirit, physical health, anything I mentioned earlier as being one of those 6 dimensions of thriving, you are essentially playing a fight that was not created with you in mind. And that's why we need to make sure that we are aware of the specific considerations that needs to be made in female friendships when one or both women have mother-daughter trauma. So I want you to know as well, I'm not sure if you saw my post yesterday. I posted it on all the platforms, but research shows that 94% of women who have mother-daughter trauma struggle to trust and maintain relationships with other women. So that shows you that so many, more than 10% or less than 10% of women actually are out here having fulfilling relationships when their relationship with their mom is bad. And the reason for that is because of the protective walls that we automatically just erect after experiencing so much pain as a response to trying to connect with our mom. So if you've been trying to connect with your mom for decades and all you get in return is being hurt, being abused, being ridiculed, being belittled, all of those things are going to naturally make you not want to be a part of relationships with people who remind you of her. She's a woman, women remind you of her. It's so easy to be triggered in that dynamic. So I say that to say that I really do want to normalize that it's not something that you're doing on purpose. It's something that's natural. Naturally, the human body is designed to protect itself. So that's exactly what you're doing. We just have to figure out how to have strategies so that we can enter these friendships in ways that are going to be more successful. So in that way, we're not, trying to build up those protective walls. So I want us to start off with triggers today. So we said that we were going to talk about triggers and manifestations of that trauma. So let's start with triggers. Now, from being a part of this community, from working as a therapist with this community, and then also from now being a researcher in a position to conduct research studies with this community, what I found as the number one trigger is unmet expectations. So there are so many other triggers, but like I said, I want to make sure we focus at a high level and that we don't get too lost in the information. So we're going to focus on the unmet expectations. Unmet expectations can show up in friendships with women who have mother-daughter trauma of themselves, and then also of the friendship or the friend itself. So 2 ways that you can have unmet expectations. Let's start with of yourself. So a lot of times what I've seen when working with women and then also with conducting research is that, and I can relate to this personally too, is that a lot of women have the fear of saying or doing something wrong in a friendship as a friend. And because of that, they sort of don't even really show up fully. So they may, calculate what they say, calculate what they do. They may, say they're a friend and never really do anything friendship related. Like they're not even trying to do any of the activities of being a friend because they feel so broken and ill-equipped. And that means that, in a way, they're also feeding that cycle of their own, which causes them to not meet their own expectations of what they should be as a friend, even though in reality, they don't know what that means. In order to be a friend, you have to have a model. Your model was supposed to be your mom. When there's conflict in that relationship, the only thing that you know how to do is either duplicate that conflict, so replicate it, or to just not even participate. And that's what I find that a lot of women do. They don't have any idea of what it means to be a friend, but they hold themselves to these expectations and ideas that they actually have. So that's a way that I see the unmet expectations of self show up. Another way that I see unmet expectations of self show up is that the person who has mother-daughter trauma is comparing their life or their progression in life with the friends. So that can especially happen if the friend has a supportive mom, because of course you're thinking in your mind, I would be achieving all those things if my mom was that way. But it also can happen if the person also has a unsupportive mom, because you're thinking, how the hell are they achieving all of that? And I'm not, and we have the same sort of situation. So I see that play out a lot of times where you're not meeting your own expectations for how fast your life should progress. Maybe you are not necessarily married and your friend is, and you feel like you should be. You don't have the job you want, but they feel really fulfilled in their career. All of those things can seep into jealousy, when in reality it's just you being sort of upset with yourself, and not necessarily even yourself, but with the hand you were given in life that has caused you to create the life that you have. And that all goes back to the mother that you were given. Also, I said that the unmet expectations can come up of the friend or of the relationship itself. And how I've seen that happen is that, a lot of times we expect our friends to be trauma informed. And that becomes challenging when, number one, they not, but that's a whole nother topic. But it becomes even more challenging when we don't even have the words to articulate to ourselves, or even, to our friends, what our triggers are, what our needs are, and we're just making expectations that they should know us. How possibly would they know you when you don't even know yourself? But that's why you're here today, because you're learning what the triggers are. So that's number one. I see trauma informedness as being one. And then I also see unreasonability. So a lot of times women who have mother-daughter trauma are almost looking at them giving you their hand in friendship as an honor. And granted, it is an honor. To be someone's friend is the highest honor. Love is excellent. However, what becomes challenging is when you feel like, this is my person, I trust you, I'm not going to trust nobody else, I've given you me, and then you end up expecting this person to fulfill all the needs that you have. Sorry, y'all. You expect them to fulfill all the needs that you have. You're not looking, to anybody else to give you any sort of fulfillment, any sort of friendship, any sort of love, any sort of companionship, any sort of hanging out. I don't know what's happening. I wish I had my I wish I had my water, y'all. Okay. I think it's over. But you're looking at this one person to be your all, essentially, and it's an unreasonable expectation of that particular relationship. I feel like I need to go get water, y'all. Hold on one second. I have my blanket on. I will be right back in 1 minute. Okay, I got the water, and next time I know to keep it right beside me. But I see, like I said, the unreasonability show up when you're not willing to be anybody else's friend, and you've decided, I've chosen this person, they make me feel safe enough at the very least, and I expect them to be there when I need to vent. I expect them to be there when I want to have fun. I'm getting jealous that they're going out with other people. That's where I see those things start to happen. It's an unmet expectation out of the fact that you just purely have unreasonable expectations of the relationship. So the way that these often manifest, all of the, the things that I just previously discussed, the way that they manifest is, a lot of times women can accept too much blame when they have mother-daughter trauma. That's a trait that comes from people pleasing. So a lot of times we learn in our relationship with our mom that, the other person is always right. The other person, we need to kind of tiptoe around their feelings. We really don't need to vocalize how we feel. That's something that's manifested in a relationship with a mom that is not willing to hear you, that doesn't allow you to advocate for yourself, that doesn't accept your feedback as anything other than criticism, really doesn't see reciprocation or building a relationship as you having any sort of ability to communicate what you desire. So when that happens, a lot of times you show up in a friendship and you're just like, you know what, I'm always at fault because I'm broken anyway. I don't know how friendships work. It has to be my fault. And that ends up creating a dynamic where you either have somebody who's taking advantage of you, or you either have somebody who is just like sort of disgusted because why are you not allowing me to, be a friend to you as you are to me. So that's one of the ways that I see it manifest. Additionally, I see it manifest as entitlement. So we talked about that a little bit before when I spoke about having unreasonable expectations of a relationship with a friend. When you feel entitled to them, oftentimes you get really possessive. And like I said, when they're out with other people, you're getting upset. If they shared a secret with another friend that they didn't tell you, you're mad. If they, maybe have a wedding and they don't put you in the position that you thought you were going to be put in, then you're upset with that. And that can happen when we don't have the same sort of weight that we're holding to our friendship as the other person. And all of that can be resolved by simply communicating what that person means to you. And then sometimes realizing, this is something I had to come to the realization of, that because of the deficits that I had in my foundational relationships, so not having a mom, who was supportive, not having a dad who was present present, not having siblings that, you know, would really see my mom for who she was and would take her side instead. I came into life with no relationships, you know? So that means that people oftentimes may mean a lot more to me and hold some very integral spaces in my life, and I may not do that for them. You know, when I think about my closest friends, all of them have families. You know, all of them come from families that are super supportive. They kick it with their siblings. Like, you know, I have to recognize and realize that I am just not going to necessarily always be as much of a priority to them as they may be to me, because I have the space and freedom and time and absence of relationships, which is essentially availability to be able to bond with these people in a certain way. So that's another way that unreasonability becomes up into play, because you don't look at the fact that they have different people than you do. And it's maybe not that they don't love you the same. It's just that, you know, they didn't start off life with the deficits that you did. So that's where some of that entitlement comes in. Additionally, number 3, and like I said, I'm not sharing with y'all everything because it's so much information, but number 3 is stonewalling. So stonewalling is essentially us deciding I'm not going to communicate, I'm not going to cooperate. And I see this happen so much in female friendships when one of the people has mother-daughter trauma, because one of the reasons why it happens, which is probably an overwhelming reason, because remember, people are telling me what their real thoughts are, even if they're not telling the friend. But sometimes people are aware that, you know, I really do have some unreasonable ways that I'm seeing this relationship. However, I don't know how to look at it any differently. Like, this is the only way that I know how to see things. So what am I supposed to do? You know, like, I know it's wrong, but it is my perspective. It's my philosophy. It has worked for me X amount of times, and restructuring it is going to harm me. And also, I don't really even know how to restructure it. So sometimes it's that fear of undoing that causes people to perpetuate cycles over and over again that, you know, really are toxic and unhealthy. And they may also know that they are. Also, I see stonewalling happen because of embarrassment. You know, embarrassment for, like, maybe having the wrong idea about things and fearing that the person is going to shame them because they had the wrong idea. So fear of, you know, being gaslit because of the history of gaslighting that has occurred between you and your mom. Oftentimes that can cause you to not even want to communicate to people, because you'd rather just sit with your own assumptions, even if they're wrong, because you're protected by not sharing them. So I told y'all that this was going to be quick and dirty. I gave you some triggers. I gave you some manifestations. I gave you some information about myself. So I want to make sure that you come back to the next couple days. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about the 5 types of friends that every woman with mother-daughter trauma needs. So we're really just building upon this. So I've told you how this is triggered and manifested in your friendships. I'm going to also, like I said, tell you what types of friends you need to be prepared for. And then lastly, like I said, we're going to wrap it up with tips and strategies. So if you come to all through nights, you're going to be very well equipped to really start unpacking some of this trauma that you have with your mental health professional, because obviously we're not in a one-on-one relationship where I can really dive into it with you. So I want to know, do y'all have any questions? Y'all have any comments? Y'all have any concerns? Because I am done, if not. And we are coming in at a short amount of time at 23 minutes, which is great. Okay, let me scroll. And I know that Bree has been texting me too. Some of these questions are not related, y'all. Okay, so it doesn't look like y'all have any questions. So what we're going to do, we are going to post this video. Watch it. You know, if you started off late in the video, maybe you started off after I start coughing and didn't get the first part, I want you to watch everything and then drop your comments in the comment box under the video, and we'll be sure to address them that way, since there don't seem to be any in real time. So go ahead and drop those on the recording, and I will see you all tomorrow to talk about the 5 types of friends that every woman who has mother-daughter trauma needs. And thank you so much for watching. I will see y'all tomorrow.